what lies in front of you is a 2018 Hyundai Tucson with 21,000 miles. Now, the Tucson was originally introduced in 2004 as a compact crossover SUV by Hyundai. There have been 3 generations since then, this one in specific being part of the 3rd generation, which was introduced in 2015. Now, this Tucson in specific is equipped with a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, which produces 164 horsepower. And sales of the Hyundai Tucson have been very strong in the past couple of years, peaking well over 100,000 sales in 2018, this model year. Now, in this video, I'll be taking you around the Tucson, showing you its various features and characteristics, taking it for a drive, and seeing where it falls in the endless evaluation scale. Stay tuned. So moving to the front grille of the 2018 Hyundai Tucson, as you can see here, you have your 3-tier grille with a bit of a plastic chrome lining with your large Hyundai badge in the middle. Pretty cool touch. As you can see here, you have these long swooping headlights right here with a bit of a kind of an odd like cone design, almost like pushed in for the main headlight and the rear one as well, with a bit of a circular design. Just an overall simple look with a bit of an aggressive touch on the front of the Tucson. Pretty nice though, just a very simplistic design. To the rear of the Tucson, as you can see here, you have a bit of a kind of a bubbly design on the rear trunk and the window. And as you can see, this is a crossover SUV. So it's not super tall like, you know, a full-size SUV like a Lincoln Navigator or a mid-size like a Honda Pilot. As you can see, the roof line is a bit of an arc, so it's not incredibly tall, but still there is a lot of space, which I will get to momentarily in the Tucson. And moving under the hood of the 2018 Hyundai Tucson, as you can see here, you have your 2-liter 4-cylinder, which produces 164 horsepower. You can see the 2-liter 4-cylinder underneath this engine cover. Just want to take a little bit of a look at it. I'll just pan over it and let you take a look. And one other thing I find a bit humorous underneath the engine bay of the 2018 Hyundai Tucson, as you can see, it says Hyundai recommends Shell gasoline and Quaker State oil. I'm curious if they have a contract between the two, but if there's no Shell dealership, how are you supposed to get gas in your Hyundai? And continuing with the interior of the 2018 Tucson, as you can see, you have a plastic wrap steering wheel with the Hyundai badge embroidered in the middle right there. Pretty nice. To the left of the steering wheel, as you can see, you have your voice recognition mode, your volume, and the screen changer, little dials right here, your phone buttons if you want to accept or decline a call. And to the right side of the steering wheel, as you can see, you have your cruise control settings, and these little buttons in here configure what you see in the gauge cluster screen. As you will see, as I scroll up on this, you can see you can change it to your trip odometer, your average fuel range, and a timer, another trip odometer, and the range, and then scroll through to the bottom. And there's also other settings you can configure in the center gauge cluster screen. As you can see, there is a little musical note, a wrench, and a gear for the settings of the vehicle. And one odd little feature on the interior of the Tucson, the button layouts to the screen are crisscrossed a little bit, which is not a huge deal, just a little interesting. If you use these buttons, as I mentioned, it will change the center screen, the gauge cluster. So this side goes to this screen, and the volume and radio, or just center screen changing buttons, which I will get to momentarily, they do that screen. So you have these buttons going to this screen and this one going to that screen. So moving to the center screen of the 2018 Tucson SC, as you can see here, your basic menu screen is a large digital clock, as you can see, and then the day of the week and the date. If you turn on the radio button, you have that, and the seek if you want to change the station, your media if you want to hook up your phone to Bluetooth, your clock settings, as you can see, which is a bit of your default screen, your phone button if you want to hook up your phone, scan, more of like a setting setup, and then your folders, and then your seat track, which are mainly radio controls, your volume knob, and your tune button in case you want to change the radio station. Very simple setup, and the screen is pretty simple to use. As you see, it's a touch screen. It's pretty adaptive to your touch. As you can see, there isn't a lot of lag, as I just said, so pretty cool and easy to use screen on the interior of the Tucson. And continuing with the center stack of the 2018 Tucson, as you can see here, you have a very large area designated to your hazard button. You have your 4 fan speed settings. You have your airflow buttons, and to the right of the airflow buttons, you have your AC knobs. I really like the classicness. Like, instead of having a number, it just has like the old school blue and red bar for cool or heat. Pretty cool. I like the simplicity. Then you have all your defrosters right here, your front and rear defrosters, your AC. And moving below that, as you can see, Hyundai knows you want to charge your devices in your Tucson. So you have a 12-volt outlet, an aux cord, a USB, and a 12-volt outlet on each side for the driver and passenger, and a little storage outlet on the bottom. So very all nice features that are given to you by Hyundai in the center stack of your Tucson. So continuing with the center stack of the 2018 Tucson, as you can see, Hyundai provides you with these 2 kind of odd-shaped storage outlets underneath the shift lever and to the right of it as well. Kind of cool in case you want to put coins or other little miscellaneous items, you can see here. You have 2 good-sized cup holders for the front passengers in case you want to get some beverages. You got your gear shifter right here, and you even have a little manual mode, as you can see. If you pop it down there, move it to the left, you got a manual mode, which is pretty cool in case you want to have a little fun with your Tucson. And then to the bottom of that, underneath the storage consoles I just mentioned, you have your downhill control, your differential lock, and 2 little blank switches to the right of this. And if you continue on, you are provided with a pretty good sized center console with a nice padded leather material. And if you open it, it's got a good amount of space inside, and yeah, just a nice plentiful amount of room and features in the center stack. So assessing the interior comfort of the Tucson, as you can see, on the SE trim you have these cloth patterned seats, kind of with a bit of like a line and triangular pattern. As you can see, they make triangles on when they intersect. Kind of cool. But nonetheless, you have these fairly large size seats in this compact crossover SUV. Pretty comfortable cloth overall. It's not a very heavy cloth. It's more of like a slick and sporty cloth. And overall, you know, if you're going on a long road trip, these will be pretty adequate. You know, I mean, they're not as nice as like a full-fledged leather seat, but nonetheless, they're pretty comfortable overall and not bad. Just pretty good quality on the interior of the Tucson. So moving to the rear of the 2018 Hyundai Tucson, overall, the legroom in this vehicle is surprisingly strong for being a crossover SUV. I'm about 5'11" and sitting straight up and even stretching out my legs. The seat is pushed fairly far back, and there is a good amount of room for rear seat passengers, honestly. Like, you can be very comfortable, and there's really adequate legroom, like almost as spacious as like some of the like the full-size SUVs or trucks that I've been in my life. Pretty impressive. There's no third row in the Tucson. As I mentioned, this is a crossover SUV. If you got a Hyundai's full-size SUV, the new Hyundai Palisade, I believe those come standard with a third row. But if you have a smaller family, or if you just want a crossover SUV for yourself, all you need is a second row, and it'll be fine. And overall, the rear seat quality, same as the front, same comfortable cloth overall. So pretty basic and nice comfort in the rear of the Tucson. So continuing with the rear of the 2018 Tucson, as you can see, on the rear of the driver's and passenger side doors, you have these 2 pretty high quality mesh kind of like bags in case you want to store some items for the rear passengers in the Tucson. The one complaint I will make back here is there is no AC vents or any AC controls for the rear seat passengers. I don't know if these are standard on the higher trims of the Tucson, but as you can see, there's nothing back here, just blank. I don't even know where the rear AC vents are actually, but that's my only major complaint with the back seat of this vehicle. And one odd touch on the interior of the Tucson, as you can see, you are equipped with a little blind spot mirror for the driver, which is nice in case you're in on a highway and you need to monitor your blind spot. The only thing that's a little bit odd about this is while you have one on the driver's side mirror, if you look on the passenger side mirror, you don't have one. And I'm not sure this is also standard on a higher trim, but kind of odd that Hyundai would give you one for the driver's side, which is nice, but not give you one on the passenger side. Kind of just an odd touch by Hyundai, but you know, not a deal breaker by any means. And as you can see, we now have the trunk open in the rear of the Tucson. For a compact crossover SUV, you got a pretty good amount of trunk space back here. If you're going on vacation, have a business trip, and just got to fit some things in the back of your Tucson, you got a really good amount of trunk space back here for you to do so. And if you want, you can also fold down the rear two seats in case you're hauling furniture or some larger load. But nonetheless, you have a lot of rear trunk space in the 2018 Tucson. So getting behind the wheel of the 2018 Tucson, first thing you notice, it's a little bit revvy. I will say it's not bad though. I mean, you got a decent pickup on the like the launch of the Tucson. You got the 2-liter 4-cylinder. One thing that's like kind of interesting, I don't know if you can see it, but there are these two little kind of like indentations around the 3 and 9 parts of the steering wheel, like where your hands are supposed to go. Kind of an ergonomic touch on Hyundai's part. It's kind of interesting, but I kind of like it at the same time. Overall, I mean, the handling feels pretty good. I mean, it does feel a little smaller, but not in a bad way, in a good way that it's like you have like a bit more of like a control. It doesn't feel like a large monstrosity. Like I reviewed a Toyota Highlander not that long ago, and that was a mid-size SUV, and I felt like it felt larger than it looked. This thing feels much more its size, the way it looks, and the crossover SUV definitely has more of that kind of like not a tight feel, but a more like closer and like knit feel. Like it's almost like a taller and wider car almost. Might be a bit stupid to say, but you get the gist. Overall though, I mean, like you feel pretty well on as far as handling goes in this vehicle. The comfort's fine, you know what I mean. You got a pretty good sized seat in the crossover SUV, not bad. So assessing the turning radius of the Tucson. Turning radius is fine, honestly. It's not a huge SUV. It's much easier to maneuver than something like a Toyota Highlander, a Honda Pilot, or anything like a large size pickup truck like a Ford F-150 or something of the sorts. This is actually the first crossover that I've ever driven. I've driven many SUVs and pickup trucks, but I've never driven a crossover SUV. And it's kind of interesting, actually. Like it's a bit of a difference. Like you wouldn't think it's a huge difference between a mid-size SUV and a crossover, but there actually is, surprisingly. And it's not a bad one. It feels a little more kind of like zippy, like a car almost. It's kind of cool. And one unique thing that I want to mention about this car, it's kind of ironic because we're following a Honda CR-V right now, but the owner of this vehicle told me that she formerly had a Honda CR-V, and now she has a Tucson, and we live in a very cold climate area in New Jersey, and it snows frequently, and she mentioned that the Hyundai Tucson handled the snow much better than the CR-V did, which is kind of an interesting touch that, you know, if you look at a bias and you live in a cold state like New Jersey, Maine, Montana, North Dakota, something of the sorts, might be a factor you want to consider if you're in the market for this vehicle. The only thing, like, I will say, I mean, it's a little bit revvy at first with the 2-liter 4-cylinder. I'm curious if a slightly larger 4-cylinder or a V6 would give it a little bit more pep. It's a little bit revvy, but it's not as like throttly as a vehicle with a V6. And I'm not sure if a V6 would be too big for this vehicle, but it's a bit of an interesting take on it because it's a very fuel efficient engine. It's just, I wonder if it might need a little bit bigger one if you want more of like a faster speed in the Tucson. It is now time for the interview section, in which I answer 5 generic questions one would ask when going to purchase a vehicle. Question number 1 of the interview section is, what is my favorite part about the 2018 Hyundai Tucson? And that is the roominess of the interior and well as the fuel efficiency. One thing that's very nice about crossovers is this vehicle is fuel efficient while having a decent amount of space in it for an SUV. So that would be my favorite part about the Tucson. Question number 2 of the interview section is, what is my least favorite feature about the 2018 Hyundai Tucson? That would be Hyundai's sluggish 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. As I said, this engine response was a bit slow for this vehicle. However, Hyundai's 2.4-liter 4-cylinder, which produces 181 horsepower, might be a better option, which is featured in the higher trims. Maybe that one would have a little bit more of a pep to it, but I thought Hyundai's 2-liter 4-cylinder is a bit sluggish for this personal vehicle. Question number 3 of the interview section is, what is the most unique feature about the Hyundai Tucson? And there's not much. This is a very just simplistic vehicle, but if there's one thing I think is kind of cool is if you drop it down into manual mode. I feel like most crossover SUVs don't have it's not a sport mode, but like a bit of a manual mode. Kind of interesting though, and pretty cool. In case you want to have a little bit of fun with your Tucson, I give Hyundai props for throwing that in there with this vehicle. Question number 4 of the interview section is the 2018 Hyundai Tucson worth its value? And I would personally say yes. You are getting a pretty decent sized SUV for a very economical price. I believe these start under like 25 to 30,000, depending on what trim you get and what options you get. But still, for a fuel efficient SUV with a good amount of trunk space and overall storage on the inside, you're getting a pretty good bargain, I think, honestly. So yes, I would definitely say the Hyundai Tucson is worth its value. And question number 5 of the interview section is, would I ever personally want to own the Hyundai Tucson? And the answer is no. While I think this is a good vehicle, personally, I'm a truck owner. I own a Ford F-150. I like larger vehicles, and while I think this is a very good vehicle, I simply would not want to own one myself. But as I said, if you're in the market for this, I would definitely consider it because it is a good option. Now that we've evaluated the Hyundai Tucson's characteristics and features, it's time to see where it falls in the limitless evaluation scale. Before I begin, I'd like to thank my friend Chris for lending me his Tucson for the production of this video. Chris has his own YouTube channel where he makes vlogs, gaming, and other types of videos, and I'll leave his channel in the description below. Now on with the scoring. Starting with exterior, the Tucson is your average looking crossover, fine but not breathtaking, earning a respectable 5 out of 10. Interior of the Tucson is also fine, not gorgeous, earning a 5 out of 10. Road trip on the Tucson is also just fine, as the cloth seats are adequately comfortable for the most part, earning a 5 out of 10. MPG of the Tucson is good for its size, having a combined estimated MPG of 23.5 miles per gallon, earning a 5 out of 10 on the MPG scale. Storage on the Tucson is solid, having a maximum storage capacity of 61.9 cubic feet with all the seats folded down, earning a 7 out of 10 for storage. Character on the Tucson is poor. This is your run-of-the-mill affordable crossover SUV, earning a 2 out of 10 for character. Wish on the Tucson is pretty solid, as this SUV is equipped with a healthy amount of features, but still lacks a handful of features like higher tech of luxury cars, earning a 7 out of 10 for wish list. Handling on the Tucson is fine for its class, as its small size makes it easy to maneuver, but has a fair amount of body roll and is by no means sharp or swift, earning a 4 out of 10. Excitement for the Tucson is poor. This is your run-of-the-mill crossover SUV, and by no means is it exciting or awe-inducing, earning a 2 out of 10 for excitement. Stupidity in the Tucson is solid, not possessing many stupid features, earning an 8 out of 10 for stupidity. Pricing of the Tucson is strong, as you start in the mid to high $20,000 range while new, but go for under $20,000 if you're looking for a pre-owned one with low miles. That's a pretty solid deal for a newer crossover SUV, earning an 8 out of 10 for price. Engine responsiveness in the Tucson is a low point for this vehicle, as the 2-liter 4-cylinder seems a bit small for this car, giving an underpowered and sluggish driving experience. While this is a somewhat common complaint in crossovers, and Hyundai's optional 2.4-liter 4-cylinder might solve this issue, this could be a deal breaker for some, earning a 3 out of 10 for engine responsiveness. Overall amenities on Tucson is solid, as this car has most of the basic needs one would ask for in a vehicle. Still, the addition of leather seats and better tech would be a nice feature. Yet again, this is not what this car is aimed at, earning a 7 out of 10 for overall amenities. Add up all those scores, you get a grand total of 68 out of 130, divided by 13 categories is 5.23. Despite its lower score, the Tucson is a solid vehicle overall. While it's not as lavish as some luxury crossovers, it gets the job done for most in the market, while offering an affordable price tag for many consumers. However, the sluggish powertrain is a potential turnoff for many looking to purchase this vehicle, which is something you may want to consider if you plan on doing a lot of highway driving. If this doesn't matter to you though, then the Tucson may be a solid option for you. Thanks for watching.